Welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to combat another common Honda Fit problem, and that is sticky rear door handles. I will lift this and it won't close because the handle's stuck. So if I push it in, it'll close. And if your car is like this, I'm going to show you how to fix it. Alright, the first thing we're going to do after opening the trunk is going to be removing the grab handle right here. It's got two plastic clips built into it that just get bent down and it comes out. I use a little metal tool. You can use a flathead screwdriver, whatever you'd like. Just be careful not to mar up the plastic too much. You're gonna get in there and poke them out. I like to put a little bit of pressure in while pulling it out. While doing that, the handle comes off. You're gonna have two plastic clips on either side of the latch. Mine doesn't have them. And then you can come in here again with a pry tool. Honestly, you can just pull this one by hand. And it's just a bunch of these little white handle clips that hold that in place. And then next up, we're going to remove the electrical connection for the wiper motor. There's one little tab, kind of holds it in place. You can use a little clip tool, get in there, pop this out. Then you're going to need a 10 mil. I like power tools, you don't have to use them. And we're going to remove the cover for the wiper. It's got two little clips on either side. You just pull this apart and it pulls out. Put that one away. This is a 10 millimeter. Pull that out. And the way I like to do this is pull this out and give it a couple whacks. It usually does the job. You can hit it with the rubber mallet if you need to. Grab that same 10 millimeter, and there's three bolts that hold the motor in place. Go ahead and wiggle the motor out of place, set that aside, and now we're ready to remove the trim piece. Now this is the not so fun part about this job. That trim piece that needs to be removed to have access to the bolts that hold the handle in place, the handle's held in by these two nuts right here, is held in by all these plastic clips. There's one there, there's one there, there's two here, and there's another one hiding back there. But it's got one 10 mil bolt holding that in, and typically it tends to rust. If you can see, let me see if I can get you closer in here. The condition of that. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, I don't really know what it's like to have clean cars, you know, down south, but these are usually a pain. But I'm gonna show you a little trick on how to deal with that. First thing we're gonna do is going to remove all these clips. You gotta squeeze them together. I like using a set of pliers. So let's go ahead and get that knocked out. So the pliers I like to use are these angled needle nose pliers. They can be had for pretty cheap at auto parts stores. Harbor Freight sells them for a couple of bucks. I like to get into the clip and then just kind of squeeze it and go around it because it's got three little tabs. So let's do that. And then I also start from the passenger side and work myself closer to where that bolt is because it makes this a little bit easier. So I'll squeeze and put pressure on it at the same time. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll come in here, pull with one hand, and do the clip with my other hand. you can hear them pop. It's because I'm putting a little bit of pressure on this, lifting it up. All right, so the last one I've got to do here is the one on the very far edge, and then I've got that 10mm bolt. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this one loosened up too. And sometimes what helps is having one of these little plastic trim removal tools and putting it down here. Make sure you're not marring your paint. Just to add a little bit of pressure and keep that. You see right here how it's kind of separating a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. That way you don't have to be using two hands and be all over the place. There we go. I got that last one out. So now the only thing holding it in place, you can see that one's loose, it's gonna be that bolt. For this part, I really recommend using an impact. When you spin it, it's just gonna spin in place, sometimes breaking the plastic. So I will go at it with the impact and try to slide the piece out. Just like that. And that was my panel popper piece that I was trying not to have mar the paint. But you'll see that it didn't completely break the plastic there. It is a little bit oblong. And all the clips are still intact. So we're gonna put this aside and continue with the job. So now you get to actually remove your handle. It's held in with two bolts here and it's got the cable attached to it. First I'm gonna get those two loose. We're once again going to use the trusty impact. Don't lose the bolts like I am. Or nuts, rather. Oh, come on, come on. That's why magnetic sockets are great and why I should invest in them. Get that guy. And now, we can come in here and you'll see all this crud. All this, and how rusty all this is because the seal between the glass and that trim piece isn't very good. So instead of water going over it, it goes under it and gets this handle all crusty. So you're gonna need to fish this out a little bit like I've done. And then this is just held in with pressure. You pop it out to the side and then we can get the cable out. You see the cutout right there. So let me go ahead and get that done. All right, so this is pretty simple. Just go ahead, pull the cable out of there, twist it so that the cable lines up with the hole, and it pops out, just like that. You'll see that this handle gets stuck. It doesn't have very free movement because of all this rust that's on the hinge. So let me grab the new one. We're gonna do something a little bit special to it so that we can try to prevent this from happening at least so quickly. You're gonna have your new handle. It's gonna come in a little baggie. I'm gonna pop that out and see that it's this pretty thing that doesn't have any rust on the hinge. Well, unless we treat it with something, it's gonna rust out again. That's where our friend white lithium grease comes in. So this is something that will stick to it. It won't wash away very easily. And you can periodically go back in there underneath and apply a little bit more. So the way that I like to do it, take the can vigorously, have the little nozzle in, and just apply it between the plastic and the metal as much as you can. On the ends as well. And then you want to work the handle to try to work some of that in. So just do this for a couple of seconds. Make sure you try to get as much in there as possible. And then you can come back at it with a rag. Wipe off any excess. I usually try to leave some up here for extra protection, and then just wipe enough so that I'm not getting it on myself when I go to open it. So I'm going to wipe the inside. And I'm going to wipe in there a little bit. And while I'm at it with this rag, I'm going to just clean this up a little bit. I'm not going crazy with it. But while we're in here, might as well try to make the car a little bit nicer. This would also be a great time to replace your license plate lights if you have one that's out, or if you want to upgrade to an LED or something like that. Or if your lenses are very dingy, like mine are, it's a great time to wipe them off. All right. So you'll fish the cable through here, which I'm gonna have to go inside the car for because it popped out while I was cleaning. So BRB. So installation will be reversible with removal. You'll get your cable. You'll fish it through the little slot, rotate it so that it aligns with the tab, and push this guy in. Sometimes it can fight you a little bit, so you might want to use pliers here, like that. Make sure you're getting the foam pushed in. Fish the handle in, align the holes, and then we'll open this by pushing and then lifting. And once you've got it opened up, you'll take your 10mm nuts that you took off of the old handle. The new one doesn't usually come with them, so you will have to reuse the hardware, but this hardware is usually in good shape because it's covered in the inside of the car. Get those started by hand, and then tighten them up. At this point, I will usually check to make sure that everything's working. Everything works flawlessly. So now we can put the trim piece back together and then get this panel sorted. The next thing we're going to do is deal with this crusty thing. A wire wheel or a wire brush usually does the job. You can put some tape around here. I usually just try to get most of the crust off sideways like this. But just work at it a little bit and try to clean as much corrosion as you can. These usually break when you try to loosen them, and then when you go, even if you're lucky enough to have it loosen up and come apart, when you go to put it back together, it'll again just spin in place and ruin the trim piece. So we're gonna do that, and once again bring our friend back here, white lithium grease, and throw a couple squirts in here. This will lubricate between the metal and the plastic and make putting this back together a lot easier. Now comes arguably the most difficult part of this whole process, and that is getting this guy back in place. If you have someone that can give you a helping hand, that would be very useful. I'm here by myself today, so I'm gonna give it a shot. And basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to align the little slot right here in sideways while turning that bolt that we just put all that lubricant on. So I'm once again gonna use power tools for this, just because it's gonna make it a lot easier for me. I'm gonna bring this down about halfway. Try to line it up. And just like that, I've got that guy on. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up the rest of these. All right, you can see in here, we've got all of these clips where they need to be. And if we come in here, you can see that that guy is in place. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the bit of a mess that spinning that thing caused. And then we're gonna pop this back in. Now, when you go to put your panel back in, make sure that you're not missing any clips. Like this one right here is gonna go back on the panel. So let me clean this up and we'll do the next part. So we gotta put the wiper motor back in, which is pretty easy. Just line up the rod, just like that. Start the bolts by hand. Do the electrical connector. And make sure these are nice and tight. And then we get to do the trim piece. So we'll get our panel piece. Again, making sure you have all of your trim piece retaining clips in and that they are all the way attached. We'll go ahead and line it up. And then just give it a good couple taps. Just like that. So next up will be your little clips. They are a two-part clip. They push in and they push in more than that to remove them. What you want to do is go all the way up like this, and they should still squeeze to be able to pass through. Now I only have one. I have another one in order, but you'll go ahead and get that lined up and then just push it flush and that'll lock in place. And then we've got the handle, which goes in and locks in place. And then we've got the wiper arm. Grab my impact while I'm at it, which is pretty easy to do. You just want to make sure that it lines up. So let me show you how to do that. You're gonna grab your wiper arm that you removed, lay it flat, put it there, and align it here so that it's even. You want it to be kind of in the middle because this will have movement back and forth when you're operating the rear wiper. So what I like to do is line it up with the lines for the rear defroster. Once I've got that in the spot I like, come in with a 10 mil. Once again, start it by hand. Tighten it the rest of the way. And you'll see what I mean here, that it goes up and down. There is play both ways. Then you'll grab the trim piece for this. Pop it on just like that. And your handle is ready. All right, so now I'm gonna try the locks, make sure everything works and nothing got messed up during the installation. Go ahead and hit the lock button once. That is locked. Hit unlock twice. And this opens right up. Closes, not bouncing around. Hit lock again. And it works as intended. So just like that, for a couple of bucks, a couple of minutes of your time, you can have a working tailgate. You don't have to be sitting there fidgeting all of your time, you know, pushing this back in, making sure you didn't forget. So I'll leave a part number and link in the video description for where I get my handle. It is aftermarket, but I've had pretty good luck with them. I've had one in the black car for like 2 years and it's still great. As long as you do the white lithium grease when you go to install, and like even if you just once a year hit it with a little bit of extra, it'll last you a long time. But thank you so much for joining. I hope you found this helpful, and see you on the next one.